Hello everyone, and welcome to the video. This is either going to be called Travel Tuesday or Wanderlust Wednesday, depending on when I post the video. Um, so you'll be able to figure it out whenever you're watching this. Um, I wanted to do this video series just as a fun exercise. I really enjoy traveling, and I really enjoy booking travel for other people because I get to live vicariously through them. And then even sometimes I just like looking up fun vacations that I kind of, can bookmark away for maybe a time that my wife and I can get away. We have a family and, we don't have as many vacation days as we would like. So a lot of times I'm just kind of going around online and seeing what's available and, maybe how much it costs or what days are best to travel and stuff like that. I love looking up different countries, different places to visit. And so this is kind of an experiment or an exercise that's going to kind of illustrate that and basically just go through what I look through and how I search for these little trips. So the premise of this is basically just trying to find large cities that are frequently visited outside of the US, so international trips. And basically, I try to look for vacation packages or cash purchases that you can just do on your own, or if you want to go through a travel agent, the different types of apps or software that they use in order to book travel. And so for this video specifically, I thought that it would be kind of cool to compare all of those different ways of booking travel and seeing which one would be best for this particular trip. So the city that I chose was Paris. One, because it's somewhere that I've been before, so I know a little bit about it. My wife and I went there the end of a different trip through this travel company, Globus. We went to England, Scotland, Wales, and then added on 3 days in Paris at the end of it. And it was beautiful. It's everything that people talk about. The food was fantastic. The Eiffel Tower was really neat to see. We went to the top of the Arc de Triomphe, and I apologize for butchering all these French names. We took a river cruise to see Notre Dame. We did not go in the Louvre, but we walked around the rest of Paris, and it was really, really cool. So this particular independent stay through Globus, it's not a guided tour. Basically, you show up to your hotel and they, introduce you to the area. There's a concierge specifically for Globus, and they might give you some extra excursions that you can purchase through Globus. Obviously, there's a person that speaks fluent French, so if you need directions anywhere or if you need to call anywhere for reservations for dinner or lunch, stuff like that. Um, like I said, my wife and I really enjoyed it. Some of the excursions that they have are a little bit better than just, purchasing it, straight offline because if you see here, you get a skip the line type entrances. So if there's a long line at the Louvre or the Eiffel Tower or, stuff like that, you can kind of skip those lines because you're going through this travel company. So this specific trip is 3 days. You get three breakfast meals included in the trip. I won't say free because you're basically paying for it anyway. It starts at $7.99, but the specific 3 days that I picked was the start of Valentine's Day, so February 14th this year, through the 17th. And so for that trip, it's $899. And if we go back here and scroll down, I believe there was the hotel that they list as Le Méridien near the Arc de Triomphe. And so I want to compare if we did this trip by ourselves, just paying cash, how much would it cost? Because right now with $899 a person, you're upwards of, you know, $1,800. And so if we go to Le Méridien, Arc de Triomphe, right on the Marriott website, it's only €549 for the room in total. And so $1,800 down to 550 euro. Um, I mean, I don't think the euro is that much stronger than the US right now. Um, I would guess that 550 euro might be close to maybe $700 US at most. Um, and so that $1,100, like, the personal concierge and the 3 breakfasts, you know, does that make up for it? In my opinion, probably not. Um, so that's one of those ways that you can kind of compare. The other thing that I like to look at is if you have hotel points. And I'm one that loves to use points. We have a summer vacation coming up this year where I'm trying to use as many points as possible and the least amount of cash. So if you're trying to use less cash and more points, um, Rooms.Arrow is a sister site of Seats.Arrow, which I'll show later on in this video. And basically, you can look up, again, Le Meridian. I don't know why it's named slightly different, but it is the same hotel that we were just looking at. It's close to the Arc de Triomphe, and this is $39,000, or sorry, 39,000 points per night. So 120,000 points. So you could effectively stay for free and just use hotel points, and that would save you, either $1,800 or close to $700. And so now let's look at, this is a vacation access website, and this is something that I use as a travel agent. This is basically just a website that I can book travel for any of my clients, something that I use to book, vacation packages or flights or hotels, stuff like that. So, like I said, we're going to try to compare apples to apples. This is the same hotel. It is $996 for the same nights, same room. And that it's interesting because I always thought that travel agents and travel agencies, they get a huge discount for, or maybe not a huge discount, but some type of discount for the hotel. But that's not always the case, and obviously that's an example here. So $996. So now let's look at, because obviously we need to get to Paris. So now let's go to this page that shows not only the hotel, but also the flight there. And the flight that I picked was the Delta Airline flight. And Delta Airlines is a partner with Air France, and that's why you can go there in Delta and come back on Air France. But total for this trip is $2,200. So if we're doing the math, that means that the hotel is 1,000, the total is 2,200, so the flight should only be 1,200. Well, looking at this, now it's an American Airlines flight that was cheaper than the Delta flight, and it's still $1,600. So that's interesting. I think that the published air, like I said, is usually about the same as the cash price. But if we go to this website, Google Flights, which I like to look up the cash price of a lot of different flights, you see that the American flight is about $1,200, which is what we said it should be. But then that Delta flight is only 1,000. So it's interesting that these cash prices are, so much different than the ones that are shown in the website that I use as a travel agent. And so that's something that, if you are booking travel and you're using a travel agent, you want to make sure that they're doing their due diligence and they're making sure that they're booking you on the cheapest available, flight. So we've looked at the travel agent booking, we've looked at the catch price. And so now, like I said, we'll go to Seats.Arrow, and if we want to use points instead of cash, we can fly that way. And I think I forgot to mention, this whole time we've been going from Miami, just because that's one of the places that I could find across all of the different booking platforms. And so the Miami flight is, like I said, American Airlines. We're flying Miami to Charles de Gaulle. This green bar means that it's a direct flight. If we go down here, there's some blue bars, which means that there's connections. I always prefer taking a direct flight just because, if you miss your first leg, then you're most likely going to miss your second leg, and then your whole trip is pretty much, ruined or at least, delayed. And that's not fun. So clicking on this little info button over here, we go to details. So this flight, which is in economy, it's 27,000 points for American, and $5.60 in fees, which is pretty nice. That's probably the lowest amount of fees, other than no fees, that you could probably get when using points. So like I said, American Airlines, 27,000 points, $5.60. And while we're on Seats.Aero, and just full disclosure, this is not a sponsored video at all. I'm not getting sponsored by any of these sites. Like I said, these are just the sites that I like to use when I'm looking up different types of travel. But Seats.Aero was really nice. I've used it before to look up some reward flights, they call them. Using different types of points. You can filter them based on like what alliance maybe you're part of or what transfer partners you have. So for example, I have American Express cards and I have Capital One cards. And so that kind of, gets me down to I can use Qantas or Flying Blue or Virgin Atlantic or Etihad, Aeroplan, Air Canada, stuff like that. So now let's go to the flight back, just so we can finish our trip. So this is 12,000 points. I'll try to make it bigger. It's 12,000 points, but then 250 euro. And so that's a lot in fees. That's through Virgin Atlantic. If we go down, I think that there's an American flight that is the 27,000 points with, still more than the $5. It's $131. But total, if you're going to use your points, it's 54,000 points and then $136. So that's for one person. So total for two people would be 108,000 points and about $260. So if you have the points and they're readily available and you're not doing anything else with them, it's probably going to make sense. But if we go back here to the cash price, you could also just spend $1,000 and you would pretty much get the same or similar flight over. And you could save your points for maybe a little bit better redemption. And what I mean by that is, and hopefully I'm not covering too much, but a lot of people like to get their point redemption so that it's 1 cent per point. So for example, if you have a credit card that's giving you 2 points per dollar purchased, that effectively is getting you 2 cents back, right? So 2% back. But if you find, let's say we go to a premium version or a business flight. Let's see if we can find it on the way back. Yeah, so premium or business. So for example, we have this business class flight here. It's 45,000 points, so less than double to go from economy to business. But then obviously the fees are a little bit higher. But normally for this, Paris to Miami flight, let's look it up. So if we go a one-way, Paris to Miami on the 17th in business, we're going to pay upwards of, and let me see if I can pick the same exact one. So this is at 355. So the 355 business nonstop from Paris is over $11,000. Meanwhile, you could spend less than $500 and 45,000 points, and you could take the same exact seat. And so that's a really, really good redemption for the amount of points that you're using. And so that's what people kind of mean when they want to save their points for a better redemption. But like I said, if you're going to, if you're going to spend, your time in Paris and you want to get there for relatively low cash price, you use your points however you want, and obviously you have to use whatever points you have. So yeah, I think I'll end the video there. I think it's a good length. Hopefully you've enjoyed the video. Hopefully you've learned at least something about how I book travel or how you could book travel, different ways of looking it up and stuff. And so, like I said, I'll try to do one of these videos maybe once every week. Like I said, either Tuesday or Wednesday, comparisons between just booking with cash yourself or using a travel agent or, going through a different booking site, like a travel company. There's also a couple other, like travel myths and, stuff like that I'd like to cover too. Like, what's the best day to book travel? A lot of people say it's Tuesday and Wednesday. Um, how far out in advance do you want to book travel? Some people say, 3 months. Some people say 2 months. Some people book travel a year out. And so maybe I might do some comparisons between that. But in any case, thanks very much for watching. If you have any comments or questions, please feel free to leave them below. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe to the channel. Hopefully I can get some following. And then at some point, maybe we'll do this live, or if you have any specific destinations that you want to go to, um, maybe I can do that. I can do that for you as a whole video. Let me know down in the comments, and maybe we can look it up. We can even go further and look up stuff to do in the city of your choice, or different deals, or different types of passes that you can get, so you can make the most of your trip. So yeah, I'm really excited to continue this video series, and I hope you are too. So thanks again very much for watching, and I'll see you later.